Good evening. My name is Dean Murthy. I'm Dean of Engineering here at UCLA. I see a lot of familiar faces, so I'm assuming that you all know who I am. This is reverberating a bit, if you don't mind turning it down. All right. All right, so thank you all for coming out here this evening. I know this is the last few weeks of the academic year, so you are in the middle of getting a lot of stuff done. But nevertheless, I think you'll find that this is an absolutely wonderful program tonight. This is the third and final lecture of our annual Distinguished Lecture Series. For those of you who've been here before, the lecture series was endowed by Ron and Valerie Sugar, and therefore this is the Ron and Valerie Sugar Distinguished Speaker Series. For those of you who don't know Ron and Valerie, Ron Sugar used to be the CEO of Northrop Grumman. He is a distinguished alumnus of our school, and Ron and Valerie endowed this lecture series, and we've had a series of fascinating speakers over the last couple of years. So let me tell you a little bit about today's speaker. Tonight's distinguished speaker is alumnus Freeman Shen. Freeman is the founder, chairman, and CEO of WM Motor, an emerging electric vehicle company in China. Freeman was born in China, and he received his bachelor's degree from South China University of Technology. He came to the US to continue his education, and he earned his master's degree here at UCLA in civil engineering in 1994. He earned an MBA from the University of Minnesota, and then he's also a graduate of the Harvard Business School's Advanced Management program. Freeman started his career as a manager, then executive for several large companies here in the US and in China. His first big assignment in the automotive industry came as an executive with Fiat, serving there as the senior vice president of the Fiat Group China and the CEO of Fiat Powertrain Technologies in China. So following his success with Fiat, Freeman was recruited to join the Geely Holding Group, a major multinational automotive manufacturing company headquartered in China. And there he was a member of the board and a group vice president overseeing a $20 billion year subsidiary. Now, while many of you, or maybe some of you, have not heard of Geely Automotive, you've all probably heard of Volvo. Geely purchased Volvo cars from Ford Motor Company in 2010. This multi-billion-dollar merger, one of the largest in Chinese history, was led by none other than Freeman Shen. So Freeman stayed with the Volvo car group following the merger and led the team to build Volvo's China operations. This included research, development, manufacturing plants, its supplier network, and its sales and service operations. After Volvo, he was a co-founder and CEO of Pateo Group, a leading vehicle connectivity, telematics, and smart car technology company. And continuing on this entrepreneurial track, Freeman has set out on a new independent path as the founder of an exciting new automobile manufacturer in China. WM Motor is focused on the electric vehicle market, and their first all-electric SUV will hit the market later this year. So Freeman, thank you for making time to come here today to UCLA and to join us here on campus. I know we're all looking forward to talking to you. Freeman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Murthy.
So this is a real pleasure to have you here. Welcome back to campus. And I know we've got a fascinating conversation ahead of us today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me tonight.
I hope you can all hear me okay. Is that good? All right. So before we start, I got to give you guys a quiz. See, you thought you'd come here and put your feet up and, watch us talk, but that's not what it's going to be. So tell me this, without benefit of Google, when was the first Model T produced by Ford Motor Company? Do you know? Do you know the date? Was it 1800, 1850, 1900, 1950, 2000? I'm running out of dates, guys. One of you is going to have to tell me an answer. Yeah. 1901, pretty darn close. Anybody closer? 1908. All right. So it's been 110 years since the first car was produced. Right? Now, the other fact that's really interesting is that China is an ancient civilization, a lot older than the Model T. And so what do we have here? We've got this interesting thing. Now, the car is not a new invention. It's been here for 110 years. China's been here as long as civilization has been here practically. And now we see in Freeman Shen the collision of these two technologies, I guess, or these two things, and this enormous disruption that's changing a very old technology, the car. And we've got this country, China, that's in the throes of enormous change. And we've got the mixture of these two, the collision of these two sitting right here in the person of Freeman Shen. Isn't that an amazing thing? I mean, this is what's going to drive our conversation tonight.
Yep.
Right. So I'd like to start our conversation. Well, first of all, let me ask you the obvious one. Where did the name Freeman come from?
Oh, I got the name from my father, because I love playing soccer before I came to America. And there's a position in soccer field that you can run in different positions. So basically it's a Freeman. And,
all right. Okay, that's certainly an original name.
And also when I came to U.S., actually in UCLA, first name when the professor trying to announce, call the name, I think you remember that, he made a mistake and almost 50% of the name he cannot pronounce. And then so I said, okay, let's use the Freeman name, not the Chinese Hui, H-U-I, which is probably not so easy for American professor.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Now, when I think about your own life, you were born in 1970.
Yeah.
Right? And I was thinking back on China and the enormous changes that it has been going through. Now, Chairman Mao died in 1976,
yep.
Right? And then soon after, there was Deng Xiaoping. It unleashed this whole, well, I should say, maybe 30 years of extraordinary change. So when I look back at your own life, it seems like your life intersects this huge change that happened in China in the last 20 to 30 years. It's really an amazing thing that's happened. For those of you who don't know, since 1978, the World Bank estimates that 800 million people have been lifted out of poverty in China. That's a stunning number if you think about it, right? So that big change happened in your lifetime in China. So I guess my question for you is, tell us a little bit about your childhood. You lived through all of these changes. What are the changes that happened?
Born 70, 76, not only Mao, but also Zhou has passed away. I think the same year, the three major leaders. And then and China opened up in the 1980s. And the people in our generation had the luck to basically went through all the major historical moments. Even the 1989, I was in college, you can imagine. And then when China sending all the students outside China to study, I was one of the lucky guy came to U.S. And then after a few years working in the U.S. and Chinese economy start taking off, and they need more talents, I was also lucky to go back to China to helping the changes. And then in China, the high tech timing, they called from the PC very quickly jumped to the mobile internet, and then now starting the AI internet as the Chinese define. So I think I was lucky to basically had a role in all kinds of the thing, and including the Chinese company start globalization, and then the startup business. I think I was quite lucky. And then also the people said a lot of successful people in China, the reason why they become successful, not because they are very outstanding, because the timing was right. And I'm not sure that if it's applied to me, but since as a startup company in China, it's getting tougher and tougher because there's so many well-established business there and relatively challenged. If we start something like a website 10 years ago, it's very easily to get survive. But now, if you're trying to do a website in China, it definitely will die immediately. So I think I was lucky and to basically catch up every single important moment in the Chinese economic development last 20 years.
So now that's wonderful. So now you were talking a little bit about how you happened to be an engineer, how you happened to choose engineering. And I think you mentioned that, in fact, you set out to be an architect.
Yep.
Is that right? And I think you mentioned that your father was an architect.
Yep.
I seem to remember reading that your mother was an engineer. Is that true?
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, I didn't take the second part. That's exactly right. My father was a very successful architect, and my mom was also very successful civil engineers. As a woman in the earlier days in China, become a senior engineer, had a lot of experience building the buildings. It's not so easy, but she did a good job. And when I grew up, I always watching more architect. It's like more artist, and the engineer is more technology. And I was always dreaming I become an architect so I can do some project, basically combine the technology and the art together. And then when I go into the college, I didn't make it because I'm kind of colorblind issue. I cannot tell the difference when you're mixing the red and green together. But when you do separate it, it's fine. So don't worry, I can drive safely on the road. But if you go to the hospital, they have a special mapping mixing all the color. I cannot tell. So I get kicked out from the college. I almost get admitted to the architect. And but I think that's the faith. After a few years, I still working in the industry. Also, you have to balance the design engineering, which is car. As a matter of fact, I think the car is much more challenging compared to building, because the building it's stay there quietly, and but the vehicle, from technology perspective, it's moving around. It's more challenged, and from design-wise, it's also more challenged because if you're looking at a vehicle from different angle, when you're moving, when you stop during the day, during the night, it's different, and you have to balance those things. And so I think I was finally make my dream come true one way or the other.
So were you a gearhead? Were you obsessed with cars growing up, or is that?
No, you know what? Not really. I always liked the design, the buildings. But now, obviously, I was in automotive almost 18, 19 years now. And obviously now we love the vehicles, because especially if you watch there's a Ford cars we launched last year in Beijing Auto Show. There's millions of people watching. When we're looking at a product that handmade by you and your team, you have to always balance the design, engineering, and trying to make a product that fits to most of the people's taste, not just the rich people. We're looking at our product is targeting the middle class. It's very difficult, very challenging, but it's very interesting.
Now you are from Shanghai, is that right? You grew up there?
Yes,
or?
I was born in Shanghai, but I grew in southern China, so I speak a lot of dialects. That's why I'm catching language pretty quick. I speak Cantonese, I speak Shanghai dialect, Mandarin, obviously. They're very different. They're very different languages.
Now, Shanghai is a very exciting place to be. And your company is located in Shanghai, or you've got offices in other places? How are you arranged?
Yes. I don't know how many of them however you have been to China. Our headquarters and software engineer center and design center is in Shanghai. Shanghai is a very modern city. Basically, it's a commercial capital for China, so you can recruit very nice designer, had a global view, and also understand the local market. We also had our vehicle R&D center in Chengdu, famous for the panda and the spicy food. The reason we put in there, it's interesting. Today, the good talent was always cut by the company paying more. So you see the good talents in Beijing, Shanghai, they're jumping each other. So you cannot keep those people relatively stable for a while. And Chengdu is a nice city, relatively challenging to recruit the good talents, but once you have them, they're quite stable. It reminds me when I work in Gothenburg, the Swedes are very stable. They're very focused on engineer. They're not that financial driven, moving around. That's why we put our vehicle center in vehicle engineering center in Chengdu. Our first factory is in Wenzhou, and people was laughing at that also. In the beginning, said Wenzhou, why do you make cars in Wenzhou? But it works because Zhejiang province, they got a very nice supply base. As you know, doing a car, not only internal work, but you have to, the first car we're launching as we speak, we have about 800 suppliers. We can find about 30% of them around Zhejiang province. It's also an interesting place.
So you came to UCLA in 1994, right?
I graduated in 94.
In 94, you came earlier than that,
yeah.
And you received your master's in civil engineering, right?
Yep.
So what made you choose UCLA for graduate study? Why did you come here?
I went to university in southern China, which is the best engineering school it's in Guangzhou. I feel very similar when I'm looking around the different schools. It's very open. It's not only academic, but you have the way to learn other things. And UCLA, I know a person graduated from UCLA. He said, at least my personality very fit to the UCLA environment. I want to do something different. I want to always create something different, not doing the same thing as the other people does. And very open. Obviously, the weather, and the area, it's very nice. So Los Angeles UCLA is a perfect fit for me.
So you were a structural engineer here, or you studied structural engineering?
Exactly.
So basically you were talking about mechanics and continuum mechanics and things like that, is that right? Structural mechanics? Exactly. What else did you do on campus? Did you...
I made a lot of good friends. Believe it or not, we do activity, go to the beach, Santa Monica, and parties, as you know. Even I learned the different accents. When I speak Mandarins, I can do the Taiwan accent and mainland accents. And even Cantonese, I can speak the Hong Kong accent and the mainland accent. It was, I think I'm quite lucky at that time. During the 90s, when the new Chinese student came, most of them has to work the second job to get some money. And I got a scholarship, and then so I have more time study and then doing something I like. And now I'll be different. The Chinese kids these days come to U.S. I think most of them came from rich family. But at that time, 91, 92, most of my classmates, when they come to from China, they have to work second job or something. But I'm lucky don't need that.
Now, so I don't know if the audience knows this, but China is really the world's largest automotive market currently, right? I'm reading here that it's got something like 28.9 million units sold in 2017. That's nearly 30 million cars sold. And of course, the US, in contrast, sells about 18 million cars. So really, China is a very, very big market. Now, you, of course, lived in Southern California. You've lived in the US. You know very well the sheer centrality of the automobile in US life. By which I don't just mean that we need cars to drive, but that cars are a big part of our culture. Cars are central to our identity. We love driving. People drive in early teenagehood. It's an expression of ourselves, right? I wonder whether that same kind of relationship obtains in China. Now, I'm from India, right? And in India, cars are, you buy a car just like you buy a house. You buy one car and you take good care of it. My father drove the same car for 25 years. And so it's a very different relationship. What is the relationship, you think, in Chinese culture with a car?
Interesting. In Chinese market, the car culture is still in a phase of building up right now, which actually give us opportunity to do these products. The China market has been developed so quickly. First of all, in terms of volumes, 5 years ago, China started selling more car than US. The new car sales every year. Now it's up to like 30 million passenger car.
So what percentage of Chinese people own cars? The Chinese
Oh,
families?
still very low.
Still very low.
You know, China had 1.3 billion people.
Right.
There's only less than 200 million car on the road. And the new car sales, it's 31 million passenger car wise. It won't flat out until like 45 million. So it continue going up. Since China doesn't have a strong auto culture yet, there's a four very important trend right now happening. By the way, in China, just like India, car is a very important thing. At least when you buying a car, this is most expensive hardware in Chinese world, because a house, even today, Chinese don't consider as a buying behavior. It's an investment. Doesn't matter what kind of house you buy, there's a huge potential going up. So it's kind of investment. But car is the most expensive behavior, consuming behavior. So that's important. But on the other hand, electrification, because the Chinese people relatively interesting in the new technology. Secondary, we call the intelligence, meaning the car connected and then a human-machine interface would be totally different. The third one would be we call the automations. So autonomy drive, it's huge things, China, US both. And the fourth one, it's also happening very quickly in China, the sharing. The young generation consider car is so important, but they don't necessarily to own a car. They probably just need a usage right, or they more important to have assessment. Once you need a car, there's a car ready. It doesn't need to be owned all the time. So in other words, for electric connect car, there's a huge market over there. On the top of the new car sales continues strongly growing up right now.
So what have been the government supports for both the EV market, the autonomous market? Is there strong support for green transportation?
Definitely. Yes, because first of all, China lack of oil reserve. China rely on about 80% oil imported, and then but China had a huge hydro power, solar power, wind power, and they also followed like a European like France. China using more nuclear power right now, so the electricity generation had a huge potential. That's why the government has encouraged a switch. The second one is the emission. You know, looking the Beijing, Shanghai, the air quality is getting pretty bad. A lot of people still arguing that when you generate electricity and use in the electric car, is that cleaner or not? It really depends on where did you get electricity, right? If the hydroelectricity, obviously it's cleaner. If you use the fossil fuel, the coal mine to burn, sometimes it's necessary. But generally speaking, it's more clean. And then sharing will help reduce the vehicle on the road. Eventually will help the emission. And the connectivity will help, because that means easier to planning the traffic, easier to, even for the private car owner, can take the less congestion role and helping the less emission. So yes, the connect electric vehicle will gradually help, and safety also. When the autonomy drive become reality, China had about 200,000 people die in the car accident every year, and autonomy drive will gradually solve that issue. Not probably to zero, but at least most part of that would be reduced.
So is the model then not of mass transportation, but really individuals and cars? Is that where we're headed in China, or is it a mix?
I think that's going to be a mix, because the bus transportation, the subway, still it costs a lot of money to build a subway in China. And then as long as you manage the traffic with the connectivity, they call it smart transportation, it will help a lot. You always had the people want to have their own roam. That's why when the electric connect car develop next phase, we call it it's a moving space. It's a smart moving space. Helping the people at least have some sort of a private time. They can enjoy reading. They can enjoy the movies, gaming while they transfer from point A to point B. It's not conflict with the public transportation. Sometimes you can take public transportation. Sometimes you can take the private moving space for the purpose transfer from one to B.
So you alluded a little bit to ride sharing. Now, is that a big thing in China? Do you see it evolving? Yeah. How does it intersect with the ownership of cars?
Oh, that's huge. Somebody started I don't know if you know the bike sharing business in China, the mobile OFO, but guess what? There's another one called Hello Bike. We invest in Hello Bike. We are like a number 3 shareholder. Now Hello Bike basically is beat the both number 1, number 2. They are approaching number 1. They become on number 1 already. They probably before end of June, their volume would be even bigger than mobile plus OFO. This is actually, it's a strange business model. Nobody understand why, but it works very well because it is a sharing concept. For the vehicle, it's quite different because the asset it's very heavy, and then also the a lot of people say it's not real sharing economies for the vehicle. Simply in America, every family probably get more than 1 vehicles. So some of the vehicle will spare. You can use for Uber to helping the other people. So that's a real share economics. But in China, a lot of people just buy a car for that purpose. So overall, it's increasing the car on the road, and then it's not helping the transportation. So the car sharing, it's quite different with the bike sharing. And then a lot of people still trying to figure out business model to make sure that for the young generation, they don't need to own a car. But on the other hand, the overall car number will not increase. And then also they need to figure out the way to solve the heavy asset issue because car is too expensive. And there's a lot of open question for that. And but we believe the Connect car will help to solve the issue.
So what is the price point for a typical car that you are making? How does that compare to the earnings of an average person, say an engineer?
That's a very good question. A lot of people asking, when I do the electric vehicle early 2015, a lot of people say, oh, you are trying to do a Chinese Tesla, which is wrong. I think Tesla today is still trying to solve the rich people's problems. We're trying to solve the middle class, normal people's problems. We call ourselves the first electric vehicles popularizer in the world, because today, if you're looking globally and also in China, either there's a company like a Tesla offering very expensive electric vehicle, or somebody offering very small, low quality, low price electric vehicle. You don't see the middle.
So what would be a low price vehicle?
I mean, in my definition, it's like $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay.
Lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in China, you see the Tesla is about 800,000, which is $150,000, $150,000, 800,000 RMB. And then you have a lot of 100,000 RMB electric vehicle. You don't have somebody in the middle, good quality, and then nice design, big space. Not like the Smart or BMW i3, sorry, which is very small.
So the big space is because families own one vehicle, or is it
not really, because in that sense, Chinese is very similar to American, very different from European people. Even one people driving, they want some vehicle had enough space, so they feel comfortable inside. The car we are offering, the first one, is about the same size as the Volvo XC60, with about starting price 110 after incentive though, RMB, which is very competitive in the middle.
So what kind of incentives are available in China?
In China today, this year still have about 60,000 RMB.
60,000 RMB.
Yeah, next year is gradually reduced to 40,000. Eventually, end of 2020, you don't have any incentives anymore.
60,000 RMB is how much US?
It's 10,000,
yeah.
A little bit short of 10,000 US dollars. But our target would be, even without incentives, our pricing, performance, space would be exactly the same as the competition in the internal combustion engine car. That in that sense, you can get the people switch from engine car to electric vehicles, and then on the affordable price.
Yeah, so that's an interesting, that's an important observation that you made while we were talking this afternoon, right? So I noticed that the car industry in China is very competitive. There are, certainly the EV industry. Even the last time I read, there were 6 major state-owned car companies.
Yep.
There are private companies. There are 5 EV startups, of which
Yep.
you are, one. There are the tech giants that are entering the picture. So it's interesting what you said, which is that EVs are not really the space from which you're trying to draw business. You're actually trying to draw business from the mechanical car
Yep.
thing. So I think we talked just now and we said there were about 30 million cars being sold, mechanical cars being sold in any given year. How many EVs are being sold?
707,000.
770,000. So
last
really,
year.
Last year, yeah.
Very little.
So you don't need to compete with the EVs, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
You really want to draw from the 30 million cars that are being sold in the mechanical market.
Exactly. I think the major reason why the electric vehicle sales in China last year still pretty low, because you don't have a good product. The majority part of the buyer, it's the people who can afford more or less 200,000 RMB, which is about $30,000 without incentives. There's no product offering that in that pricing with a reasonable space and performance. You have a Leaf, very small. You have i3, very small. You have Tesla, very expensive. So there's nobody who can offer a reasonable size, affordable price, good performance. And then we see a huge market there. And then 30 million new cars. If we get 10%, I mean, our target is next year two model we're going to over 100,000. Hopefully the year after we can sell about 300,000 with the 3-4 models. And then in terms of volume, we are number 1 in the world. Today, if you sell 120,000 electric vehicle a year, you are the number 1. Last year, BYD, China.
So I want to talk a little bit about, now we've talked about EVs, but not necessarily autonomous vehicles. Right. And I'd love to get your view on where that whole thing is going. I mean, so what do you see as the maturity of the autonomous car, well, not even market, just the invention itself today?
Sure.
How long do you think it's going to be before we're all driving one? And tell us a little bit about the different autonomy levels,
Sure.
which our audience may not know about.
That's a favorite topic I talk about, because every time I talk about autonomy drive, when you're looking at a full autonomy drive car, it is a robot. So the robot's energy source must be batteries. You can imagine, if you have a robot and he carries engines, it's more impossible. So that's another reason that the vehicle will switch to electricity for sure. No doubt about that. I mean, people were debating, and then especially that debate came from Europe, because believe it or not, in the largest investment for all the commercial, all the advertisement in Europe, it's the Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes. And then since they have a huge infrastructure in the engines, so of course they say it should be engines. But if you're thinking about autonomy drive car, it is robots. And robots need to get a battery, not an engine. It's so strange if a robots were engines, so that's for sure. And then in the autonomy drive world, according to the SAE US definition and National Highway of USA, you have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 4, level 5. Today, even the next couple of years, the real production vehicles only can get to level 2. And some people invent level 2.5, which is strange, but level 2. Level 3, it's not so easy.
So what is level 2 now?
Level 2 means the car can be highly assistant for safety purpose, but you have to be always controlling the car. The driver responsible for everything. So in a car, when you're driving, for example, if you have automatic brakes, that's a level 2. If you have a lane departure warning, For example, you fall asleep, your car go to the other lane and you pull back, that's level 2 because you're supposed to control the car all the time. And level 3, it's very awkward because I don't think level 3 should be there. Level 3, basically, the car itself should be able to drive autonomy, but you have to still need to control all the time. It meaning when you fall asleep, your car trying almost hit the wall, you're supposed to react in 1 second to take the car back. That means level 3, it's only theory speaking good in the laboratory. You know, in the real world, you don't want it. And level 4, level 5, obviously, one is still responsible for a person, but it can drive most of the time. And another one is full automation. And interestingly, I think if you are from engineering school, I think this is a very area that huge career opportunity, huge startup opportunity, a huge opportunity to get money if you're doing some of the business. I think the automated drive car, it's just like robots. A lot of people now working on the eyes, which is sensors. You can get all kinds of sensors, right? LiDARs, radars, cameras, and then a lot of people saying that I want to use the low-cost normal camera, but my algorithm so good, so I can help still getting the right decision. So a lot of people, especially in the Northern California, you have the hardware company doing the eyes. And the algorithm become very important, the brain. You need a good algorithm, you have enough data, and then you have enough computing power. That's the brain. And then there's a lot of tier 1 supplier. They're making the arms, legs. Those very, very difficult to have a new startup. For example, Porsche, they're doing the braking, steering, and then Valeo, Delphi. Those are still the traditional car tier 1. They're making the arms and legs. Finally, we are the car company. We make assembly the whole robots, so he can watch things, he can calculate, he can react, and then he can jump and then do all kinds of actions. So in that sense, for the brain, there's so many opportunity there.
So WM Motors is what, level 2 then? Is that
the car we're launching is level 2.
Okay.
We probably do some demo car for level 3, but we are not going to commercialize the level 3. Again, the level 3 is easily get wrong. And for the passenger perspective.
How long before level 4 or level 5 is on the road?
I think if you're talking about real from an engineer perspective, another 10 years or even longer. Okay. But a lot of people start playing the tricks though. You can do full automation vehicle in a closed environment. For example, a closed highway. And then in the mine, in the coal mine, some trucks already fully automation because that's low speed, and also the scenario is very simple. And then industrial zone, there's a lot of Chinese in China. The industrial zone claim they are doing autonomy drive because they can separate the people's flow and the vehicle flow, so it's easier. But in my definition, which is consistent with the U.S. Highway Association, when you talk about level 4, level 5, it need to be full scenario, it need to be on the open road, just like a normal vehicles. You can sit there, fall asleep, play games, watch videos, and don't read the newspaper, and the car can make the decision and then make sure you're safely from point A to point B. In that sense, another 10 years.
Another 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to pull back a little bit now and talk specifically about WM Motors.
Sure.
Now, WM stands for Weltmeister, World Master, World Champion.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that name. Why did you choose that name?
I named the company late 2014, one of the trip to Germany, and I want to create a company and then doing things differently. We all have to admit that the world champion for the normal car, the traditional car, the mechanical car, it's German, right? They can build the best car in the world. But I want to become the world champion for electric car. I think I have advantage start from scratch, because the traditional car company, they invest too heavily in the transmission, engines, very difficult to switch. And then it's always fun that to name the company in the language that the current championship knows. So I used the Weidmeister. Obviously, they don't allow me to register Weidmeister, so I picked two words, WM Moto. And in Chinese, also fun. It's interesting because Weidmeister looks like Weimar, meaning that's a very outstanding horse. In our mindset, first of all, the horse is a zero emission, and electric car, right?
Almost.
And then also the horse is autonomy drive, right? So that's what we're trying to do. And even the voice recognition, I think the car we are launching had the voice recognition function. The horse is voice recognition, right? And then self-navigate to certain area. So again, it's interesting. So we named the company.
Yeah, and the fuel is green as well. So
yes, of course.
So all right, okay. So yeah, so now tell us a little bit about the different kinds of cars that your company is going to produce. What's going to come out when? What are you thinking of in terms of the product line going forward?
Can we have the picture?
Can we have a picture, if possible?
It's difficult to. Yeah, we have launched the EX5. A pure electric vehicle. The size is about the same as the Volkswagen Tiguan or Volvo XC60, and then we have EX5 Pro deliver earlier next year. So the EX5 will be delivered third quarter this year, EX5 Pro the first quarter next year, and then we'll start delivery third quarter next year for EX6. So EX5 actually is a 5-seater, EX6 is a 6-seater.
I think they'll give us a picture very soon, I hope.
Yes,
there we go.
This is a EX5.
Tell us a little bit about
this. This is a normal EX5.
This is the one that's going to come out soon, okay?
Yeah, this is the same size as the Volkswagen Tiguan. Volkswagen Tiguan is the best-selling car in China, and we're targeting them. And then this is the Pro version, which is more expensive, and the size-wise, the same thing. Interior, exterior is different. These two actually, if you look in the system-wise, 90% is the same thing, but it looks different. And then the EX6 is that one. We show all these 4 real cars in the Auto Show Beijing last month. That one, third quarter next year, that's a 6-seater, a little bit bigger. And that one is our German team. They engineered this pure electric race car. It's called Istera. Istera, it's a 50-year-old company. The founder is still there. The founder was a genius, used to work for Porsche. And then Istera, I don't know if you know the German language, it stands for IS, stands for engineering, German language. DE stands for design. I stands for race. So it's design, engineering for race. This brand has been there 50 years. We bought the company, we stopped all the engine production, and they'll spend 3 years pure electric, 0 to 100 kilometer per hour can be 2.8 seconds. One of the lightest car in the world, pure electric. And also, by the way, this is a real production car. In the Chinese media, you will quite confused. Almost everyone showing a race car, but it's not possible to homologate. So that's a trick there. Again, as an experienced auto guy, it's very easy to build a car only on the rice check. Actually, it's quite challenging to put a car in a normal road. Homologate, yield, meaning you pass all the crash tests, all kind of tests. And this car is homologate for European road, and we start deliver at the end of 2019 in our German facilities. And this one, actually, believe it or not, in China, if you take the car this year, the lowest spec is 110,000 RMB after incentives, which is $12,000.
Something like that. Yeah.
Very competitive. Very competitive.
So what's the range on these cars? How many kilometers
this
or miles?
This one, we have 3 versions, 300, 450, 500, and EDC. This is also very important. A lot of people playing these tricks because they said my car have these in China we use kilometers. The car is 300 kilometers, one charge, but it's the equal speed, which is not true because nobody drives the car equally, right? when you drive car equally, of course you drive longer. Then there's in the standard in our business, it's called NEDC, New European Driving Circle. That's more closing to the real world. So this is a 3 version, 300, 400, 500 kilometers per charge, NEDC. And this only got 400, one version, the upgrade version.
So what about, so let me talk a little bit about how your company is arranged. So what kind of people are you hiring? Are you hiring traditional automotive people, mechanical engineers, or do you have investments in computer scientists and AI people? What's the mix with this new world of cars that we're getting into?
For the young engineer, we always prefer the software. We now basically call hardware and software. Mm-hmm. And the software, including, of course, AI, and then cybersecurity, the person who can help for these upgrading things, mm-hmm. the OTA, online upgrading. The software engineer become more important, but we also want somebody that the software engineer had the hardware background. Because if you purely, for example, we have the early days to hire somebody who used to do a lot of websites, and then it's very difficult to understand the hardwares. If you have a hardware background software engineer or software background hardware engineer would be very useful. And the vehicle is the most complicated hardware in the world. And when a lot of people asking me, what do you mean the smart car? What do you mean the connect car? It's very easy, very simple. Trying to make a hardware become a software can be upgrading use the software. That's a real smart car. We have been separate the whole vehicles. Depends on how you calculate that. It's about 600 different kind of systems. So far, we can figure out about 15 of them can be upgrading control by software. We hope every single hardware in the car can be controlled by software, upgraded by software.
So now you have what, about 1,000 employees? Is that right?
Yeah, we have 1,500.
How much?
1,500 so far. At the end of the year, we have 2,500. So we hire another 1,000.
And what percentage of those are software people?
So far, we have about 200 software engineers. Okay. We should be getting more and more. And yeah.
Good. So let me turn a little bit in terms. Let me turn to the whole issue of global startups and business creation and so on. Now, you have been extraordinarily successful in raising funding for WM Motors. Right? Tell us a little bit about that journey. How did you?
Sure.
How did you succeed?
Since my last job, when I leading the acquisition from Geely to Volvo, nobody believed that would happen, and it's very challenging for us to raise the fund to buy Volvo. And so when I started my own business early 2015, for me, I had the experience to basically doing second time. The electric vehicle, it's a very hot business today. It's very easy to get money, but it's better who you get the money from. Mm-hmm. It's more important. So we are targeting those big high-tech giants, and we get the fund from Baidu and Tencent. As a matter of fact, all the BAT looking into us, all the high-tech company, you're probably aware of that, even Xiaomi, Huawei, they are looking to us. And finally, we picked Baidu and Tencent. Simply, Tencent, it's the ecosystem Tencent built is so powerful, helping us to work with our young generation for the vehicles. And Baidu spent a lot of money on the AI. If we're talking to Baidu CEO Robin, he said when he talked about AI, there's only two user scenario. One is the home, one is the vehicle. For the home, it doesn't necessarily link to the home builder, right? The home builder just build a house, you can put all the AI technology in there. But for the car, it's different. Any AI technology they put in the car need to go through us, need to approve by us. So that's why he's spending a lot of resources on the electric vehicle autonomy drives. So that's why we're ending up these two major high-tech giants.
Very good. So do you see a difference in the startup cultures in the US and in China Is there culture differences? And
Yes, because we have quite a few supplier came from U.S. Also a startup company. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm flying to London, California to continue working with another one. Yes and no. I think the Chinese people working even harder, and then but technology-wise, the basic technology still much more advanced in U.S. But the way using in the real case, application-wise, so we call it advanced engineering, application engineering. I think China has been doing good job for application engineering. U.S. doing both good at advanced engineering and application engineers. And then, so if you're looking at all the China high tech, they don't have most of them. They don't have original invent, but they are using them much quicker, much faster, and then probably also using in a lot of very local scenarios.
well, we've got only a minute or so left. So finally, do you have advice for our students? I mean, there's lots of interest in the startup culture, lots of people wanting to start companies. Any advice you can give them?
Sure. I think if you want to start something, that's very important. The first one, get some money. It's very important. I mean, secondary, the talent and team. It's always start with somebody you know, familiar with. When I started, I have almost 200 people used to work for me in Fiat, Bob Warner, GD, or Volvo. Good or bad, probably some of them will not stay with you for a long time, but at least you have a quick start with some people you know, familiar with. And then obviously third one is focus on product. It's very important. Get some money. I think there's a lot of Chinese money coming this direction also, not only in China. I think it's a good timing that as long as the product idea is good, relatively easy to get fund these days.
Very good. Hey, so I don't want to use up all our time, just me talking here. So I'd like to open this up for questions from our audience. I know there are mics there in the back. Yeah, question here. Oh, okay.
Oh, sure. So your cars are supposed to be pretty cheap, and I kind of noticed that they don't have LiDAR attachments. So I was wondering if you have like a camera array for your neural networks, or like how's that going?
Yes, we actually have the 12. Because we are working on the mass market. I think the mass market today's solution is still the low-cost camera with the improving algorithm. The LiDAR is so expensive. It's not only these things, but even the very expensive car cannot afford that. And although there was one of the two, right? There's only two mature claiming they can do it $20, less than $100, whatever they say. Still very expensive. So you're right. We're not using that. We're not making Ferrari. We're trying to become the Volkswagen in the electric world. Raising hand here.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah. So Tesla has been in California for a long time, and they're getting like a lot of money. Each guy is like 80,000 or whatever. So they have like this amazing money, like capital or whatever to spend. Even them, I'm not sure if the charging station is like number of charging stations are like enough, like the sufficient number to give us like, confidence to get one and drive off to Grand Canyon, whatever, not get scared that, okay, it's going to run out of battery at some point, whatever. These are amazing prices, like 12,000 for that car is ridiculous, like very nice. With that amount of money flow, would you be able to get the charging stations, install them in somewhere like China, a very large area?
Yep.
Something that Tesla couldn't do yet,
Yep. This question, the day one when I found this company, asked myself, and every investor will ask the same questions. First of all, we are targeting in the beginning the people with different lifestyle. China sold 30 million new car every year. There's a lot of portion of them have different lifestyle. Like myself, I live in suburban in Shanghai. The closest fuel station, gas station, I need to drive 25 minutes to get one. But I have a fixed parking space. I can easily put a charger pole there. So to me, the convenience and user experience is much better with electric car compared to the gas station. I'm pretty sure at least 20% of the new car buy in China had my situation. That meaning 6 million people every year. So that's big enough for us. Our model is if you buy our car, as long as you have a fixed parking space, we get a free charging pool installed at home. I don't cost any money because we have 5 most largest charging station operator working with us. This is the charging station and the car, the electric vehicle. It's like brothers. It never happened. They are going further away, building so many charging stations and very little electric vehicles. It won't happen the other way around. We're selling a lot of electric vehicles without charging station. They are going pretty much about the same time. And then another very important thing, China had advantage. Europe and US doesn't have. The Chinese government has sole support on that because China short of oil. So electricity become a very important resources. As a matter of fact, China put the oil dependency as a national security issue. Because from a China perspective, they think if I rely on import oil, 80%, and looking back at history, how many wars is because of the oils? So the government say, it doesn't matter how it takes, we stop that. And then the state grid, China state grid, which is the largest electricity supply company in the world, they spend billion RMB putting the charging station there. So it's not an issue. We are launching our vehicle in the tier 1, tier 2 city, about 20 cities. It's already at least 150,000 charging pool already there. And we are also let our partner install the pool there for free. So in other words, I don't think it's an issue. And also, today I talked to one of your professors. I think US and China, a lot of people developing the portable charging station. I think that would be a huge thing. Somebody had a technology breakdown on that, because that would solve the issue completely, the moving charging station. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. We have first time ever in the automotive world, our electric vehicle can be charged each other, which a lot of Chinese new generation love it. Because if you run out of the battery, open the WMO app, and then you can see a lot of red dots on that. That means the other WMO tool, and then you can request. And then I'm pretty sure that if you want to charge, a lot of girls probably came to help you. It's not that efficient yet, but it's good enough. We actually, the EX5, 10 minutes charging, you can adding about 30 kilometers. It's more than enough to exchange telephone number or any social media you have. So I think that's very useful.
Sorry, I had 2 questions. First of all, I noticed that your lineup of cars, sorry,
Yes.
consists of 3 SUVs and a sports car. I was wondering, is there a reason why you didn't have like a mid-size sedan? And secondly, you mentioned earlier that the car is one of the biggest consumer goods for the Chinese market, and at least with, to the best of my knowledge, with current battery technology, over time a battery will degrade in the amount of charge it can hold. I was wondering why you specifically chose to use batteries over perhaps like a different fuel source, such as like hydrogen, for like a hydrogen electric car.
Yeah, the good question. The reason why we do SUV, because if you're looking, I think the same thing in US. If you're looking at our product is focused on the young generation, and if you ask 100 Chinese young generation, 99 of them tell you they would like SUV. And then also electric vehicles typically second car, third car in the family. They typically will buy SUV. So the solution is very clear. We go SUV. This is different. This is just showing the technologies. So you probably know that Ford just announced last week they're going to shut down all the sedan production in U.S. So I think they understand the new generation like SUV, and so no doubt. And another question is the battery. Again, I think I actually worked in hydrogen before. It's not technology issue; it's a commercialized issue. Hydrogen is very difficult to storage and distribute. And then looking at electricity distribution has been, I don't know, hundreds of years in U.S., China, everywhere. People still complain it's very difficult to get the electric car charged. Imagine if you start promoting the hydrogen, it's so challenged how to store that, how to distribute them. And then obviously a lot of people still working on the technology, make sure it's a low temperature, low pressure, you still can ship those hydrogen. Even the issue has been solved. You have to start building a lot of hydrogen stations. It's much more challenging than electricity. So that's the answer.
Thank you for the presentation.
Sorry.
Many believe here in the U.S. that if electric vehicles take off, they're going to also go for wireless charging. Do you believe in that, and are you investing in that?
In the laptop area, yes, but again, that's still infrastructure issues. The wireless charging for the vehicle, we see a few. I also personally saw a few sample cars did that. But again, you will need to build a huge infrastructure to that function, and you only save only 1 or 2 steps. You save 1 step, the driver get out from the car, and then take this charging, put in the car. You save that actions, but you have to spend billions of dollars to put the, basically it's something stored on the floor. It's infrastructure issues. I don't know if somebody can figure out a fast way, easy way, close to zero cost to do that. Not so easy in the near future.
On the topic of autonomy, what do you think are the bigger factors limiting level 4 autonomy?
There's 3 things, I think. First of all is the data. That's why everyone trying to doing the open row testing, because you need to collect enough data. And then in that sense, I think this should happen in China, India first, because the low condition in China, India is much more complicated. If you can survive the autonomy drive in Chinese road, this is very easy, but not the other way around, right? Because you don't have enough data, Secondary, obviously the algorithm you need to improving. And the third one also, it's very critical, the computing power. I don't think any car today, at least to increase, I don't know, 10 times, 20 times, these 3 will take time.
We have time for exactly 2 more questions.
I wanted to take a minute to kind of step back from your company, but about your experience. A lot of us here might be interested in pursuing a startup. What would you recommend as a path towards that? Would you say it's better to become very, very good in your specific field, like take master's education or PhD? Or would you say it's better to get your hands dirty in industry and then move forward towards startup?
This afternoon I share with this also with some of the other students. I think it depends on personality. Some people actually are very practical. They probably need to get a little bit serious then. And some people, it's very serious. You probably just quit the PhD program and go to work. And for startup, I think you need to be focused on, for example, in the autonomy drive, in the electric vehicles, it's the coverage is so wide. You better just focus one thing, and then make sure you probably, in the theory, is not the advanced in the world, but at least you can make it work into product. Just one point, one small area, it's good enough to raise a lot of money, help you to really commercialize the technology.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question for your car sharing ecosystem. As you mentioned, you are focusing on that. You also mentioned the bike sharing market in the China, but I don't think they have yet figured out a successful business model that can actually make profit from that. And for the car sharing, I think you need like a much more like investment at first, since you have to produce a car, you need a place to park the car, you have to have all the like electrical chargers installed, and also at the same time, if people are actually getting into the car sharing, the new car sale will go down, and especially the cheap cars, because people can afford like very expensive car, they don't actually care. So I think if you once build such a system, spend a lot of money on that, you're like competing with yourself on selling new cars to other customers. And there's an like yeah, I just want to know like how do you think you can make profit?
Very good point. First of all, the bike sharing business is different. A lot of there's a lot of money in China going to bike sharing business, not because they want to make money out of bike sharing. It's never make money. There's two reasons. First of all, they actually create a habit online payment, because the bike sharing in the beginning, there's WeChat, there's Alipay, and then the people start using only online payment. That's a behavior. Once you create that behavior, you probably go to buy in supermarket. Another reason is the one we invested called Hello Bike. They are getting close to profitable now. Two business model. One is they are in the tourist spot. They're actually getting exclusivity from the government, with the reason that too many bike sharing company come in and make the whole area out of order. Everyone dump 100 bike there. The whole thing, the whole area has become a mess. So they say, I'm the only one. Give me the only one. Pay me a $1 car. I make sure everything in order, clean in order. And then they're also doing the advertisement. When you're riding a bike, you see some advertisement there. So they're getting profit. But I don't know if they will survive with that business model. But at least they have a business model. Compared to phase one, it's only a behavior for online payment. The vehicle sharing, you're right. Nobody has been figured out yet. There's so many people doing this because, first of all, as a startup, I don't really mind the total sales volume going down, because I'm from 0 to 1,000 to 10,000. What really scary is the big guys, which we are happy they're scared, right? I think, the car sharing, if really had the model going up, I think Volkswagen would be in trouble. Toyota would be in trouble, because they're selling 10 million cars a year. Suddenly they become 8 million. When a company selling 10 million, the whole infrastructure, workforce, everything, supply base is based on that. So when they jump to 8 million, the company is in deep trouble. The company like us, scratch, 1 million, I'm very profitable. 2 million, I'm probably become the richest company in the world. So it's a different thing. And then, but I think the sharing will happen. If you're looking your buying behavior, buying a car probably is the lowest efficient behavior you ever had in your life. Because first of all, when you buy a car, there's a lot of functions you don't need. You never use them, but you're just buying, and then you go to check your user manual and figure out, oh, you got that kind of function, but I never use that. And it's also a lot of function when you're driving them. It's very difficult to find where's that. So that's very low efficient. Another very low efficient is you buy a car, you're supposed to own 24 hours a day, but you're driving 2 hours, 3 hours. The other 20 hours, it's a waste of money. So in theory, you can share the car during the downtime of you not using them, or you are traveling to East Coast 1 week, and then your car suppose can be shared. I think in that sense, somebody will be able to figure out how to use that, the downtime of not using for you. You're right, so far nobody has figured out that, because again, the car itself is too expensive. It doesn't like bicycle, as long as you raise 1 billion RMB, you can easily get 2 million bicycle put on the road, and then you'll get some market share. Vehicle, nobody can do that. But again, buying a car is a very low efficient behavior in your life.
Well, on that down note, I guess, I'd like to stop now, but this isn't really the end of the evening. There's going to be food outside, and of course, you're all welcome to come and catch up with Freeman Shen and ask him the questions that we haven't been able to get to here this evening. So I want to close this by saying how wonderful it's been to have you here. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And I wish you and I wish WM Motors the highest of success.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.